We have Miss Ingita Priyadarshini with us right now, who has more than 8 years of experience in Indian Oil in the supply chain and co-marketing divisions of Indian Oil, and who has led multiple functional teams to achieve capital-intensive projects. So we are organizing an event in February, which is an L&D initiative, Summit and Awards. So for which your insights would be really helpful for us, ma'am. So we would like to begin with the questions. Shubham?
Um, Ma'am, as we already know that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and although the cases have been showing a declining trend, but we still don't know when the end game is. So my first question to you would be, how do you define a career in this new normal, and what are the significant changes compared to a career defined before the pre-pandemic period?
Right. That's a very, very big question, Shubham. Actually, to answer it within, a couple of minutes or maybe in 5 minutes will not be doing justice to the question also. But I think, I'll start with the pandemic period because I have spent more than 8 years, as Rupal mentioned, at Indian Oil. But so a majority of my time was spent in field locations and, in the operations and supply chain logistics as well as business development. And now I am a part of the training team. I'm a part of HR and the learning and development team. So the biggest shift which I have seen, during this pandemic period is that there is no leader today. There is not a single CEO. And there is, in fact, nobody who does not say that the past 2 months and more than that have been unprecedented. Never have we seen, such disruption to economies and such chaos to life, both personal as well as professional. We've seen the markets crashing down. We've seen how every company, including ours, which is like one of the biggest PSUs in India, and we are one of the biggest oil and gas sector downstream industry in India. So, everyone is suggesting a new normal. A new normal, these two words are the words, being used so frequently by everybody. A new world is emerging, in fact, and it is unanticipated and universal change is the new normal, I think, So basically, Mother Nature has tried to make us understand that what are the requirements through a very, virulent virus, and we can't outthink her. But, we must think about how to deal with what we've been dealt to respond positively, rapidly, as well as innovatively. Now, it's as if, you might say that Mother Nature has given us a challenge of immense biological, psychological, immunological, and genetic, basically, proportions. And it will definitely take a lot of work for us to adapt to these changes. It will take a lot of work, both professionally as well as on personal ends. I think one place where we have really tried to understand one, in fact, I would say attribute that has become very important during these times is empathy. Generally people are like, काम करना है, बस काम करना है, let us just finish the work, let us just get the financials set, let us just sit out for meetings, whatever time, whichever time, let us get this work done. But abhi kya ho raha hai, since you can't see people, you can't meet people physically, you have to be so empathetic towards them in order to get your work done. Teamwork has actually changed drastically. पहले team work क्या होता था, जब 5-6 लोग साथ में बैठ रहे हैं, they can see each other, they can interact with each other. अभी तो वो हो ही नहीं रहा है. It's like Zoom platforms and virtual platforms. So I think these are the shifts that are happening, and people are trying to cope up to it. We will take a lot of time, and I think this thing is going to last for a very long time. This is like that disruption that has happened to us, and it will take a lot of time. So I think pre-pandemic, of course, these things were not there. हम वैसे ही चल रहे थे जैसा कि we were working 50 years back. We were working like that only. So I think primarily these are the grounds in which entire course has changed, and we've taken a different course altogether. I think I've answered your question, Shubham.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, so as you said that the scenario has changed, there has been this shift that has taken place. So, ma'am, what are the relevant skills, right now to remain relevant in this field, and especially in our professional career, not just our personal life?
Uh, the field you mean in HR specifically, or in any field?
Yes, ma'am. In our professional career, in any field, like
In
there
any
has
field.
been this shift. Yes, ma'am.
So, in fact, we were having a team meeting yesterday only. We are trying to rework our training framework. And we were, in fact, discussing just exactly what you're talking to me right now. And it is like initially people were being given a lot of functional skills, a lot of technical skills, how to deal with your specific function that you're working into. Say, suppose there is a person in supply chain management at Indian Oil. So we used to focus majorly on his supply chain management skills. How is he talking to the customers? Maybe some other soft skills as well, his business etiquettes, how is he dealing with the customers, how is he responding to complaints, how fast is he in responding to complaints. Now I think in this new normal, we have to incorporate, mental well-being, mindfulness, and again I would say the importance of empathy to people. These are the few skills which have to be incorporated in one's life in order to be successful in any, kind of function, in any corporate scenario. So it's like because there are so many people who are like, for past 6 months I personally know so many people who've been stuck at home, not being able to go out, not being able to talk to anybody now. And the only friend that they had was a laptop, and they were, taking meetings from the laptop. So their mental, ability went for a toss. They couldn't understand how to cope up with that scenario. So in order to, and of course, we started having meetings on Zoom, we started having webinars on Zoom. In fact, our number of meetings and trainings suddenly they were, they increased and they shot up after this pandemic happened. People didn't know how to mute themselves. People didn't know कि video कब on करना है, कब off करना है. When suppose Rupal is speaking, I would just suddenly unmute myself, and there's a child sitting right next to me, and the child will start crying, and then hundreds of people who are there in the webinar will be like, "Ye kya ho raha hai?" See, these are the things which have to be learned now. We have to adapt to the new normal. Being technologically very, very capable and able, in fact, is something which is very important now. We cannot say that we do not know how to operate a laptop. We cannot say that we don't know how to, work on Zoom. Maybe Zoom is something that we have today. People, I'm definitely sure that these industries are going to come up with some other alternatives very soon. We'll have to cope up with that as well. So I think these are the skills which are required to, cope up with the going with the world right now during this pandemic.
Right, ma'am. Thank you. So, ma'am, yes, Shubham.
Ma'am, as you emphasized on empathy and mindfulness, ma'am, my question would be on similar lines, that how can emotional intelligence training enhance work performance of people in the HR industry?
Emotional intelligence is, I don't know how were we actually working without emotional intelligence so far, and how have we actually, come this far being a human ourselves. We are human beings. Emotion is something that makes us different from all the other creatures in this planet, or maybe somewhere else as well, if we have them, if we have, some aliens all around us. I think emotion is one thing that makes us so different from others, and I don't know how have we come so far without giving stress to emotional intelligence. In our industry, in fact, at Indian Oil, after this pandemic started, we started with a campaign in which actually Dr. Sen has taken the lead, and he's helping us out a lot with it. We started by handpicking some very promising leaders in our corporation, especially, location in charges. We started with the top management, and we have started training them towards how to build up their emotional intelligence. I wouldn't say it is, I wouldn't call it as emotional intelligence, but more of emotional resilience. And inspirational leadership that they can give to their subordinates. If you've been, I'm sure you both have been watching the news and all during pandemic. Jesse, this pandemic started, there were few people who became suddenly very famous, like New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, who just won the second term. Why did she become famous? Not because, she was an excellent, of course, she's an excellent leader, but that was not the only point. And why was she considered an excellent leader? When the pandemic started, I remember watching a video of hers on YouTube in which she wore a sweatshirt and she just crossed her legs on sitting on her bed or something, I think, and she had her phone, her iPhone, and from there she was recording herself and she talked to the thousands of people in her country, telling them how do we have to deal with this. There at that point, she could connect her emotions with the emotions of the people of her country and make them understand that she is with them. She understands that there will be problems and they will work as a team, and she will try her best to provide them with whatever needs and benefits they need at this crucial time. So, this is how important empathy and emotional intelligence is. Because during all these unprecedented times, all our, learnings of technical fields, and, we know how to operate MATLAB, and we know how to operate SAP, and, we know we are excellent in quant and we are excellent in verbal. Everything goes for a toss. The only thing that remains is how can you connect with others on an emotional level. And that is where emotional intelligence plays an excellent and such an important and crucial role. As such a big organization, Indian Oil, with almost 33, 35,000 employees across India, and different types of employees of different age range. Like, we have somebody of 21, 22 years also, and a person who is just about to retire at an age of 59 or 60. If we are supposed to work as a team, and if we are supposed to work towards one vision, I think the 59-year-old person has to understand the 21-year-old person, and vice versa. And there is where this emotional intelligence or the emotional connect actually plays an important role. So, Shubham, it's actually, emotional intelligence is something that we cannot go without it. EQ is something we just cannot go without it. It is, in fact, I would not say as important as IQ. In fact, it is much more important than IQ. I think that's my take on it. Yeah.
So, ma'am, as you see that the COVID-19 emerged, and people started working from home, many companies began with their L&D initiatives. And so do you think that this COVID-19 if it did not happen, people would have made this shift?
Mm, See, partly yes, and partly no. Uh, like talking specifically about my organization at Indian Oil. When this pandemic struck, we started with a number of micro learning initiatives, because we knew that people were at home and they needed those. They, of course, workload increased like anything. It was never so much before. So we always thought that giving them few snippets of knowledge or few snippets about what is ongoing in our organization and outside as well would help them a lot. So Indian Oil started with a lot of micro learning initiatives. We had few initiatives called chai time learning. So in evening, mein jab everybody's sitting and we're having a cup of coffee, we just want to know about what is going on, maybe for just a couple of minutes. So that is something we started. We began with a number of webinars. Like it has never been so much. So in fact, I can very proudly say that since last 3 months that I joined as a part of the learning and development at Indian Oil, we have done almost more than 350 webinars as of now. So we have tried to touch almost more than 25,000 employees. And almost every day we have some or the other webinar. We try and connect with some external faculty. Uh, they give talks on various issues, including, women, the sexual harassment of women in workplace, the CDA and CSO rules, then, investment planning, career transition. So, of course, these are the opportunities that we got only after the lockdown struck. And I think these initiatives are could be possible only because people were working from home, and we understood that a virtual platform can also be an excellent alternative to actually physically meeting and calling people in a conference hall, and putting in so much of money in organizing a place, taking a banquet hall, and doing so many things. So of course, I mean, these shifts have happened because of COVID, but there are a lot of things which, as a team at Indian Oil, that we were planning pre-COVID also, and we have gone ahead with those plans as well. And of course, I would not relate COVID to these plans, but I agree a major shift in our plans and the way L&D initiatives have taken place in our corporation has been because of COVID. So we have a digital learning platform called Swadhyay, and we have like a lot of online learning modules in them. They are function specific also. They are behavioral training as well. So Swadhyay was one module that we actually took on a. I mean, we took it very seriously during these COVID times because that was online, and it was an online digital mode learning method. So people were very enthusiastic also to take up these modules to learn. The number of registrations done on this online platform, it exponentially increased during the COVID times. So I think these are some of the initiatives which I think happened because COVID struck us. I would not say struck, but it actually came as a blessing. COVID did come as a blessing to learning and development department because we got an opportunity to connect to thousands of people within a couple of minutes. Like I could just do today, make a Zoom meeting, talk to some faculty sitting at, maybe in Chelsea in USA, and tell him that, sir, I want you to take a talk tomorrow. There was an excellent initiative that we took by nominating some of our L&D officers to an ROI workshop, return on investment workshop, which was being taken up by the Jack Phillips Institute and at US. And Mr. Jack Phillips was himself taking the class. So it was like, actually sending some people from India to United States to his institute and making them learn from Jack Phillips. So this was of course possible because we understood that, connecting on virtual platform or doing such, taking up such initiatives is also possible, and it can be done in a very efficient manner. So, it's a mix of an answer. I think majority, yes, a lot of L&D initiatives came because of this entire, pandemic scenario. Yeah.
So, ma'am, you talked about all the different changes that an organization had to adapt to due to COVID. So, I would like to know more about the how does an organization adapt to the other factors like the political factors, cultural factors, and ma'am, environmental changes in the society which take place day to day. So, how does an organization adapt to such factors?
See, it's like there are a few executives at our organization as well, and I'm sure that there must be some executives at other organizations itself as well. And it's basically called, pestle analysis. It is one important tool that a lot of executives actually rely on to organize factors within the general environment and to identify how these factors influence industries and the firms that are within these industries. So, it's basically pestle. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's an anagram, and meaning it is a word that, created by using parts of other words. In particular, pestle reflects, the names of the 6 segments of the general environment that you rightly mentioned, Shubham. So it is political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal as well. So, I think we have to, now that we understand that, there can be such drastic changes in these, specific segments of our general environment, I think we have to work more towards uh, building, a platform which comprises of executives who are able to carefully examine each of these 6 segments, and how these segments are changing, and identify major opportunities and threats, and then adjust, their firms and the strategies of their organizations and the visions of their organization accordingly. So it's a, like the political segment, it centers on the role of governments in shaping business. Okay, now this segment includes elements such as a lot of elements, in fact, to name few, like tax policies, changes in trade restrictions, tariffs, stability of governments, and so on. Now, these things are something which, as an individual or as an employee of a particular function or department, cannot deal with it wisely. So I think that you need to have that kind of expert advice, and you need to formulate that platform which is comprised of some experts who can study the changes in these segments every day, connect and collaborate with how other firms and other organizations are actually responding to these changes, try and understand that, how can those changes and how can we adjust our strategies and, come out perfectly fine and winning. So it's your question is basically based, on it actually calls for um, the requirement of such experts, because see, these things have been happening बहुत पहले से, ऐसा नहीं है कि ये आज से हो रहा है या अभी suddenly हो गया, but अभी, because it was like almost the Spanish flu coming again, the economic meltdown that happened, it's coming again. Now people are understanding that they have to be ready for these situations. Big organizations, big firms, they are understanding that they have to be ready for these situations. So I think we have to invest both money as well as time in formulating such kind of expert teams, and so that they can advise us on such scenario. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. It was like a delight interviewing you. You just not only
Okay.
gave us insights about the L&D world, but also how, in general, the professional life is working currently. So thank you so much, ma'am. Also.